Welcome. Today we're diving into the signs of dyslexia. Ever find yourself wondering how exceptional thinkers can stumble over something as everyday as reading? How do people who solve complex problems or create stunning art face lines of text that seem to shift and blur? The explanation lives in the brain's circuitry, where science has uncovered striking differences in how minds process language. If you're new here, we're glad you found us. Join us as we explore how the mind works often in ways we're only beginning to chart. Tap like and subscribe so you don't miss our evidence-based deep dives. Your journey to understanding learning differences starts now, and we're excited to share what research reveals. Tell us in the comments which part of brain science intrigues you most. We love hearing from you. Today we'll unpack 10 research-backed symptoms of dyslexia that showcase the extraordinary route some brains take to make sense of print. And here's the twist. These aren't flaws to be fixed. They're indicators of alternative neural pathways, pathways that can support strengths traditional classrooms often overlook. Stick with us as we walk through cutting-edge findings. Recognizing these signs early can transform someone's relationship with learning and help unlock their potential. This video is informational and not a substitute for medical advice. All research is verified. References are linked in the description. Now let's break down the symptoms of dyslexia. 1. Slow processing of written symbols. Let's open with a research-grounded pattern that sits at the heart of many dyslexic experiences: a slower pace in processing written symbols. Sophisticated eye-tracking studies show that readers with dyslexia exhibit distinct gaze behaviors when engaging with text, more fixations, longer fixation durations, and more regressions. Building on Dr. Adrian Cole's pioneering work on eye movements, these patterns indicate that even the most basic stages of letter and word recognition require additional time. Reaction time experiments reinforce this picture. Dyslexic participants tend to respond more slowly when identifying single letters, common letter combinations, and whole words. The slowdown emerges across multiple layers of processing, from initial letter recognition to word identification and ultimately sentence-level understanding. Neuroimaging helps explain why to complete recognition tasks that occur more automatically. For typical readers, dyslexic brains recruit extra neural resources and rely on alternative pathways. This compensatory engagement supports performance but also contributes to the overall slower processing observed throughout the reading system. 2. Persistent letter and number reversals. As we shift into the realm of visual processing, a sign that commonly alarms parents and educators is the continued flipping of letters and digits long after the early learning stage. Brief reversals are a normal part of early development, but research indicates that when they linger, they can serve as a meaningful marker of dyslexia. Findings from developmental neuropsychology show that most children stop reversing letters by around age 7. In contrast, many learners with dyslexia continue to make these errors through the elementary years and, in some cases, beyond. Crucially, newer studies clarify that these reversals are not chiefly a matter of eyesight. They stem from underlying challenges in phonological and orthographic processing. Neuroimaging underscores this point. Recognizing letters draws on a coordinated network that integrates visual, phonological, and motor information. Work by Stanislas Dehaene and colleagues at the Collège de France demonstrates that people with dyslexia engage the visual word form area and connected regions differently when processing letters and letter strings. The reversals arise not because the visual distinctions are invisible, but because the brain has yet to build stable automatic links between the shapes of letters and their associated sounds and motor programs. 3. Verbal working memory challenges. Here we meet one of dyslexia's most consequential, yet frequently overlooked features: difficulty with verbal working memory. This cognitive difference reaches well beyond reading, affecting the ability to follow multi-step directions and influencing academic performance across a wide range of subjects. Drawing on extensive work by Dr. Lila Chen, research shows that many individuals with dyslexia struggle to hold and manipulate spoken information at the same time. When asked to carry out several oral instructions in sequence or to retain a string of numbers while doing mental calculations, their performance typically diverges from that of peers, even when overall intelligence is comparable. Neuroimaging helps clarify why tasks that tap verbal working memory activate a distributed network that includes the prefrontal and parietal cortices, as well as temporal regions involved in phonological processing. Functional MRI studies reveal different activation patterns within these systems. For individuals with dyslexia, particularly in components of the phonological loop, the mechanism that temporarily stores and rehearses verbal material. As a result, activities that require simultaneous storage and processing of spoken information are disproportionately demanding. 4. Rhyming and sound manipulation difficulties. As we move deeper into the phonological domain, one of the clearest markers of dyslexia emerges challenges with rhyming and with manipulating the sounds inside words. This sign offers a direct glimpse into the core processing differences that define the dyslexic brain, and the evidence here is especially compelling. Longitudinal research tracking children from preschool through the elementary years consistently finds that problems with recognizing rhymes and performing sound manipulation tasks are among the earliest predictors of later reading difficulties. When asked to pick out which words rhyme, or to alter words by removing a sound such as saying cat without the initial K, children who eventually receive a dyslexia diagnosis struggle notably more than their peers. Brain imaging helps clarify the mechanism. Magnetoencephalography studies show that rhyming and sound manipulation rely on rapid, precisely timed activation in left hemisphere phonological networks. In individuals with dyslexia, these networks activate with different timing and intensity, producing the processing delays and errors documented in behavioral tests. The takeaway is not a lack of knowledge or intelligence, but fundamental differences in how phonological information is organized, accessed, and manipulated in the brain. 5. Word retrieval difficulties. Picture a rich vocabulary stored in mind, yet the specific word you need slips just out of reach. For many people with dyslexia, this is a daily reality, recurring word-finding struggles that research shows are tightly intertwined with their reading challenges. Multi-site studies report a markedly higher rate of tip-of-the-tongue moments among individuals with dyslexia times when the word is known but can't be produced on cue. Work led by Dr. Evelyn Park indicates these lapses aren't random. They follow systematic patterns linked to weaknesses in phonological processing. Neurophysiological evidence provides a window into the process. Event-related potential studies reveal distinct electrical activity during word search in regions involved in phonological processing and semantic access. The dyslexic brain often takes longer to move from a broad concept to the precise lexical item, frequently grasping the meaning correctly while struggling to retrieve the exact phonological form required for speech. 6. Rapid automatized naming difficulties. At this point, our understanding of dyslexia takes an unexpected turn. Many individuals struggle with rapid automatized naming, RAN, the quick retrieval, and naming of familiar items such as colors, numbers, or letters presented in swift sequence. This finding has reshaped how researchers think about the mechanisms driving dyslexia. Extensive work by Dr. Helena Duarte at Tufts University shows that RAN difficulties can forecast reading problems even before formal instruction begins. When children view arrays of well-known items and are asked to name them as fast as possible, those who later develop dyslexia reliably respond more slowly, despite fully recognizing the items. Neuroimaging studies reveal why RAN matters. Rapid naming taps many of the same neural systems used in reading, including regions involved in visual processing, phonological processing, and motor output. Both reading and RAN depend on rapid access to stored phonological representations and tight coordination across these systems. In dyslexia, this coordination proceeds more slowly, dampening performance on rapid naming tasks and undermining reading fluency. 7. Difficulty with nonsense word Reading. Here we enter one of the clearest signposts of dyslexia trouble, reading nonsense words or unfamiliar letter strings. This pattern has offered researchers a powerful window into how new written information is handled in dyslexia insights that are both revealing and counterintuitive. Across peer-reviewed neuroscience studies, a consistent picture emerges while many individuals with dyslexia can eventually recognize common words. Through repetition, they face pronounced difficulty with items they've never seen before. When confronted with nonsense forms like blust or traming, the brain can't lean on stored visual templates and must instead rely on phonological decoding, the very process in which neural differences create obstacles. Neuroimaging clarifies the mechanism left hemisphere systems that map letters to sounds show distinct activation patterns in dyslexia. Work led by Dr. Serena Malik at Georgetown University, using fMRI demonstrates that when tackling unfamiliar words, individuals with dyslexia recruit right hemisphere regions and frontal networks more heavily, an alternative circuitry that supports performance but demands greater mental effort and time. 8. Persistent spelling challenges. As we move further into the lived reality of dyslexia, a particularly enduring marker comes into focus: spelling difficulties that persist despite strong instruction and evident intelligence. Longitudinal research tracking learners from the early grades into adulthood shows a striking pattern, with targeted support reading often improves substantially, yet spelling problems frequently remain. Work from the University of Colorado's Learning Disabilities Research Center highlights why. Spelling is a demanding act of integration, requiring the brain to coordinate phonological, orthographic, and morphological information at once. For individuals with dyslexia, this cross-system synchronization is uniquely taxing. They must expend extra effort to bind sounds to letter patterns, retain the visual forms of words, and apply knowledge of how word parts combine to convey meaning. Neuroimaging adds another piece to the puzzle. Successful spelling depends on the precise retrieval of stored orthographic representations, the brain's internal map of how words look. Brain scans indicate that in dyslexia, these representations can be less sharply defined or less readily accessible. The result is inventive yet inaccurate spellings that can persist well into adulthood. This is not carelessness. It reflects a brain that encodes stores and accesses written language differently. 9 difficulties with phonological awareness. Now the plot deepens. At the core of reading lies phonological awareness, the skill of noticing and manipulating the individual sounds within words. Across numerous universities, research identifies this capacity as a central vulnerability in dyslexia, and neuroimaging pinpoints where those differences arise. Positron emission tomography studies show reduced activation in key left hemisphere hubs, the superior temporal gyrus and the angular gyrus regions, essential for mapping letters to sounds. When a neurotypical reader hears a word like cat and is asked to remove the initial sound, the brain rapidly accesses phonological representations. For individuals with dyslexia, the same operation demands more time and greater neural resources. Perhaps most striking, these differences often precede formal reading instruction. Subtle phonological processing variations can be observed as early as preschool in children who later struggle with reading. This body of evidence reframes the narrative. The challenges reflect fundamental differences in how the brain is organized for language processing, not inadequate teaching or limited exposure to books. 10. Slow, effortful reading. To close this series, we focus on a hallmark that captures the everyday reality of many dyslexic readers: a slower, more effortful reading pace despite intact comprehension. Work by neuroscientists at Yale University consistently shows that individuals with dyslexia read markedly more slowly than neurotypical peers. The difference does not reflect ability or intelligence. It reflects the brain taking alternative routes to process print. Functional MRI studies led by Dr. Nora Whitfield illuminate what happens during reading. Typical readers display strong activation within the left hemisphere reading network, especially in regions such as the visual word form area. By contrast, readers with dyslexia show different activation patterns, recruiting additional regions and requiring more time to decode words. This effortful style often persists even after intensive intervention. Many highly successful adults with dyslexia continue to describe reading as mentally taxing. The reason is not lack of motivation or effort. It is evidence that written language is being handled through different neural circuits which demand more conscious energy for tasks that feel automatic to others. Before we sign off, remember, this dyslexia isn't a deficit, it's a different wiring. The 10 signs we explored aren't labels to fear. They're a roadmap for understanding how some brains process language along alternative pathways that can unlock distinctive strengths. If you recognize these patterns in yourself or someone you love, that recognition is power. Seek a professional evaluation, explore the resources linked in the description, and begin building strategies that play to those strengths while supporting the challenges. With early identification and the right tools, outcomes can change dramatically. If this video helped, type helpful in the comments. It tells us to make more content like this. Please subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next research-based guides on learning differences. And if someone in your world could benefit, share this video. Different doesn't mean less, it means uniquely equipped to see and solve the world in remarkable ways.